Hey kids, Mr. V. John again. I'm coming to you from my kitchen. I'm going to show you another recipe. Last time I put something out, it was on how to make homemade dumplings. Now I'm going to show you something from my own family. This is something that my grandmother taught me how to make, and it is how to make homemade bread. I got a chance this year to make bread with Miss Lehman's class during our colonial unit, and I think they really enjoyed it. They did a really great job. So I thought I'd put something out here, let you guys do this with your families or for your families. There's really an easy recipe. I'm going to show you a recipe that's going to make one loaf of bread. You can use the same recipe to flatten out the dough and make it into a pizza, the bottom crust for a pizza. And we do that all the time around here. So just remember that whatever you cook in your kitchen, you're cleaning up afterwards. Don't make the mess and then run away and let your parents clean it up. That's your part of your job too. Okay, so here's the ingredients you're going to need. You're going to need flour, water, yeast, sugar, salt, and oil. I'm using olive oil. You could use vegetable oil. Doesn't matter which one. Okay, the first ingredient is going to be the water. You're going to put in 1 cup of water. At the end of when you watch the video, I'm going to have the whole ingredients, everything you'll need to make the 1 loaf of bread or 1 large pizza dough. I'm actually going to cut ours up tonight and make little dinner rolls out of them. So it's really versatile. It's a good recipe. This is 1 cup of warm water. The way I get this is I put it under the tap and I put the water up until I can just put my hand under the water, and I can leave it there without it burning my hand. If it burns your hand, it'll burn the next thing that's going to go in, which is yeast. This might become hard to get in the stores, so this recipe calls for just a few teaspoons of this. So in this case, it's only 2 teaspoons of this. Shouldn't be too bad. If it gets too much in the stores, you can look up recipes for non-rising yeast. This makes the yeast get nice and fluffy. You're going to let this sit in the water like this for about 5 minutes. This is called proofing, and you should see it start to bubble. There's one more thing that you put in there with the yeast, and this gives them something to eat. In this case, I'm going to use 1.5 tablespoons of sugar. And without that, they won't eat anything or make any of those bubbles. Now I've got some bubbles in there, so now I'm going to put in the salt. This is 1 teaspoon of salt. And about 1/8 of a cup of olive oil. And now I start putting in the flour. This is probably going to take about 3 cups of flour, plus a little bit more when we do the next part. So there's 1 cup, 2 cups, and 3. Do this really slow so you don't make a big mess. And you can see it's kind of sloppy a little bit. You just mix it around. The first few days when we were home, I went to Wegmans and there was no bread on the shelves, so this recipe came in really handy. The other night there were no hamburger buns. I made hamburgers buns with it. Same kind of recipe. So you could really help out your family by having kind of an emergency bread situation. You guys can make it, and this has cost barely any money to make. That's why my grandmother showed me how to make it. I'm going to add a little bit more flour because my dough is still a little bit wet. And going into the next stage, you definitely want it a little drier than I just had it. Oh, that's perfect now. Okay, the next part is you're going to put a little bit of dough on your counter. And this technique is called kneading the dough. Not like I need that dough. It's knead with a K. And get all the bottom parts out of that bowl. And your hands are going to get a little bit messy. So what I do is I take a little bit of the flour, put it on my hands, and then I keep some of the flour in the cup like this, and I put it off to the side. And you're going to do this for a little while. I'm going to speed up the video so you can just keep watching it here, but the technique is pretty easy. Right now I'm just combining all the dough together, and you're going to feel that it's wet in certain spots when you're doing this. So what I do is I take more and I just kind of smear it right on where the wet part is. Now here's the technique right here. This is called kneading. You're going to take one side of the dough, then you take the opposite side, push it down. You take the top and you push that down. I kind of did this for the dumplings, but this is how all breads are kneaded after a while by hand. And I'm going to do this for about, I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes. This makes sure all the ingredients and all the flour and everything is even throughout the bread. So just watch as it goes on super speed. Alright, I like how that looks now. Looks like it's all put together nice. Now I'm going to put it into a bowl to let it rise. This is going to rise for about 40 minutes probably, this little ball of dough. You need some oil. And what I do is I just kind of dump it in the bowl a little bit, just a little bit of dump in the bowl. Now you take the dough and you rub it around inside the bowl. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of covering the bowl, but I'm also covering the top of the dough. And now I'm just going to let it sit in there. What my family does is we wrap it with saran wrap and then a towel, and we let it sit someplace in the house where nobody's going to touch it. There it goes. Now this is a great time for you to clean up, and that way you get most of this taken care of. It's like you got all this flour on the counter, so clean this up so your family doesn't have to worry about it. Now it's all nice and clean and ready for the next part. So the next part that you guys are going to do is you're going to either make it into, you're going to take it out of the bowl, and this is what it looks like. You're going to take it out of the bowl and you're going to put it either into a loaf pan in this, or you're going to roll this out and turn it into pizza dough. I'm gonna cut mine up into lots of different shapes and make it into little dinner rolls tonight. So here I'm gonna cut it up into 4s. Then I'll cut each one in half again. So we'll get about 8 little rolls. And right on the counter, this is what you can do with them. You kind of take them and form them like this, and then leave them right on the counter like that. Put a little cooking spray into a pan, and now I'm going to set those in, giving them just a little bit of space in between them. What's going to happen is they're going to bake all together. You let them sit on the counter like this, probably for another 15 minutes, so they can rise again. Okay, kids, these are ready to go. So now I'm just going to take a tiny bit of butter. I don't know if you can see it here. Just a tiny bit of butter. I put it in the microwave to melt it, and I'm going to wipe the top of these with butter. I'm going to bake it at 350 degrees for about 30 minutes, and we'll see what it looks like when it comes out. All right, little people, there they are. 30 minutes later, and you got some dinner rolls, but this could easily be pizza dough. It could also be 1 loaf of bread. Remember, I'll put the actual ingredients on the YouTube site so that you can copy them down. Good luck with it.